Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 3, Chapter 15. Though Anna obstinately and angrily contradicted Vronsky when he told her that her position was impossible, yet in the bottom of her heart she felt that it was false and dishonorable, and she longed with all her soul to escape from it. When in the moment of agitation she avowed all to her husband as they were returning from the races, notwithstanding the pain which it cost her, she felt glad. After Alexey Alexandrovitch left her, she kept repeating to herself that at least all was now explained, and that henceforth there would be no need of falsehood and deception. This new state of things might be bad, but it would be definite, and at least not equivocal. The pain which her words had cost her husband and herself would have its compensation in this new state of affairs. That very evening Vronsky came to see her, but she did not tell him what had taken place between her husband and herself, although it was needful to tell him in order that the affair might be definitely settled. The next morning when she awoke, her first memory was of the words that she had spoken to her husband, and they seemed to her so odious that she could not imagine now how she could have brought herself to say such brutal things, and she could not conceive what the result of them would be. But the words were irrevocable, and Alexey Alexandrovitch had departed without replying. I have seen Vronsky since, and I did not tell him. Even at the moment that he went away, I wanted to hold him back and to speak, but I did not, because I felt how strange it was that I did not tell him at the first moment. Why did I have the desire and yet not speak? And in reply to this question she felt her face burn, and she realized that it was shame that kept her from speaking. Her position, which in the evening seemed to her so clear, suddenly presented itself in its true color, and more inextricable than ever. She began to fear the dishonor about which she had not thought before. When she considered what her husband might do to her, the most terrible ideas came to her mind. It occurred to her that at any instant the sheriff might appear to drive her out of the house and home, and her shame would be proclaimed to all the world. She asked herself where she could go if they drove her from home, and there was no reply. When she thought of Vronsky, she imagined that he did not love her, and that he was already beginning to tire of her, and that she could not impose herself upon him, and she felt angry with him. It seemed to her that the words which she spoke to her husband, and which she incessantly repeated to herself, were spoken so that everybody could hear them, and had heard them. She could not bring herself to look in the faces of those with whom she lived. She could not bring herself to ring for her maid, and still less to go down and meet her son and the governess. The maid came and stood long at the door listening. Finally she decided to go to her without a summons. Anna looked at her questioningly, and a look of fear came into her face. The maid apologized, saying that she had come because she thought she heard the bell. She brought a dress and a note. The note was from Betsy, and said that Liza Merkulova and the Baroness Stolz were her adorers. Kolushki and the old man Stremov were coming to her house today for a game of croquet. "Come and look on, please, as a study of manners. I shall expect you," was the conclusion of the note. Anna read the letter and sighed profoundly. Nothing, I need nothing," said she to Annushka, who was arranging the toilet articles of her dressing table. "Go away, I'll dress myself immediately and come down. I need nothing." Annushka went out, yet Anna did not begin to dress, but sat in the same attitude, with bent head and folded hands, and occasionally she would shiver and begin to make some gesture and to say something, and then fall back into listlessness again. She kept saying, Bozhe moi, but the words had no meaning in her mind. The thought of seeking a refuge from her situation in religion, although she never doubted the faith in which she had been trained, seemed to her as strange as to go and ask help of Alexey Alexandrovitch himself. She knew beforehand that the refuge offered by religion was possible only by the absolute renunciation of all that represented to her the reason for living. She suffered and was frightened besides by a sensation that was new to her experiences hitherto, and which seemed to her to take possession of her inmost soul. She seemed to feel double, just as sometimes eyes, when weary, see double. she knew not whether she feared the future or desired the past, and what she desired she didn't know. "Ugh, what am I doing?" she cried, suddenly feeling a pain in both temples, and she discovered that she had taken her hair into her two hands and was pulling it. She got up and began to walk the floor. "The coffee is served, and Mamselle and Seroja are waiting," said Anushka, coming in and finding her mistress still undressed. "Seroja? What's Seroja doing?" suddenly asked Anna, remembering for the first time this morning the existence of her son. "He's naughty, I think," said Anushka. "How naughty?" "He took one of the peaches from the corner cupboard and ate it all by himself, as it seems." The thought of her son suddenly called Anna from the impassive state in which she had been sunk. The sincere, though somewhat exaggerated, role of devoted mother, which had taken upon herself a number of years, came back to her mind, and she felt that in this relationship she had a standpoint independent of her relationship to her husband and Vronsky. This standpoint was her son. In whatever situation she might be placed, they would not deprive her of him. Her husband might drive her from him and put her to shame. Vronsky might turn his back upon her and resume his former independent life. And here again she felt the feeling of bitter reproach. But she could not leave her son. She had an aim in life, and she must act at once, and take every measure to preserve her relation towards him, so that they could not take him from her. She must take her son and go off. She must calm herself and get away from this tormenting situation. The very thought of an action having reference to her son and going away with him, no one knows where, already gave her consolation. She dressed in haste, went downstairs with firm steps, and entered the parlor, where, as usual, she found lunch ready and Seroja and the governess waiting for her. Seroja, all in white, was standing with bended head near a table under the window, with the expression of concentrated attention which she knew so well, and in which he resembled his father. Bending over, he was busy with some flowers that he had brought in. The governess put on a very stern expression. Seroja, as soon as he saw his mother, uttered a sharp cry, which was a frequent custom of his, "Ah, mamma!" And then he stopped, undecided whether to run to his mother or let the flowers go, or to finish the bouquet and to go with them. The governess bowed and began a long and circumstantial account of the naughtiness that Seroja had committed, but Anna didn't hear her. She was thinking whether she should take her with them. "No, I will not. I'll go alone with my son." "Yes, he's very naughty," said Anna, and taking the boy by the shoulder, she looked at him with a gentle, not angry face, and kissed him. "Leave him with me," said she to the wondering governess, and not letting go his arm, she sat down to the table where the coffee was waiting. "Mamma, I didn't," stammered Seroja, trying to judge by his mother's expression what fate was in store for him after the peach. "Seroja," she said as soon as the governess had left the room, "this was naughty. You'll not do it again, will you? Do you love me?" She felt the tears were standing in her eyes. "Can I not love him?" she asked herself, touched by the boy's happy and radiant face. "And can he join with his father to punish me? Will he not have pity on me?" The tears began to course down her face, and in order to hide them, she got up quickly and hastened, almost running, to the terrace. Clear, cool weather had succeeded the stormy rains of the last few days. In spite of the warm sun which shone on the thick foliage of the trees, it was cool in the shade. She shivered both from the coolness and from the sentiment of fear which seized her with new force. Go and find Mariette," she said to Seroja, who had followed her, and she began to walk up and down on the straw carpet which covered the terrace. She stopped and looked at the tops of the aspens, washed bright by the rain, which were gleaming in the warm sun. It seemed to her that everything, this sky and this foliage, was without pity for her. And again, as before breakfast, she felt that mysterious sense in her inmost soul that she was in a dual state. "I must not think," she said to herself. "I must have courage. Where shall I go? When? Whom shall I take? To Moscow by the evening train with Anushka and Seroja, and only the most necessary things. But first I must write to them both." And she hurried back to the house to her library, sat down at the table, and wrote her husband. After what has passed, I can no longer remain in your house. I'm going away, and I shall take my son. I do not know the laws, and so I do not know with which of us the child should remain, but I take him with me, because without him I cannot live. Be generous, let me have him. Till this moment she wrote rapidly and naturally, but this appeal to a generosity which she had never seen in him, and the need of ending her letter with something affecting, brought her to a halt. I cannot speak of my fault and my repentance, because... Again she stopped, unable to find the right words. "No," she said, "I can say nothing." And tearing up his letter, she began another, in which she excluded any appeal to his generosity. She had to write a second letter to Vronsky. "I've confessed to my husband," she began. She sat long and thought, without being able to write more. This was so coarse, so unfeminine. And then what can I write to him? Again she felt her face burn as she remembered how calm he was, and she felt so vexed with him that she tore the note into little bits. "I cannot write," she said to herself, and closing her desk she went upstairs to tell the governess and the domestics that she was going to Moscow that evening, and she began to make her preparations.